All right. Welcome, everybody, to a next episode of Duck the IRS Podcast. I am your host, Parham Khorsandi. Got my main man, Yaron, here with us for today.
Episode 2 of me being on Duck the IRS. Thank you for having me again.
Of course, Yaron is our law clerk here at Victory Tax Lawyers, and he's been with our firm for a few years now, in his third year of law school, right, Yaron?
Last year.
All right.
And
great.
actually, fun fact, last week became 5 years at Victory Tax Lawyers.
There we go, 5 years. So he started out in college, then now third year of law school, which is a great feat. That's what we're going to be talking about today on this episode of Duck the IRS is law school. Victory Tax Lawyers is a law firm that we run, state bar regulated, one of the few and only law firms that deals with this type of IRS negotiations and things like that. But today we're going to have a little bit more fun. We're going to talk about law school, and I'll tell everybody about my own personal experiences. Yaron will do the same. Before we get into that, I want to give a big shout out to our producer, RP Hove. She's in the background here. You guys don't get to see all the production and magic that comes into this. So big shout out to RP. Thanks, RP.
RP, we love you.
We love you, RP. So I graduated law school in 2009, and it seems like a long time ago, and it is a long time ago, but being an attorney now for 15 years, I don't feel like a 15-year veteran attorney. And that's probably because I'm always thinking that there's more to learn and there's more to do, and I'm never satiated, and I never think that I know enough, and I'm always trying to learn more. So once that learning continues, you don't feel like, okay, you've been doing it for so long. But I graduated in 2009, and I always knew I wanted to go to law school. And for me, when I was in college at UCSD, I was a psychology major, and the main reason why I was a psych major was to get high enough grades to go into a good law school. Psychology is interesting. It was a good major, but really I just thought, what can give me the highest GPA? And so psych was interesting enough that could hold my attention, and also easy enough to get me to the right GPA. And then I took my LSATs twice. The first time I did not like my score, and I really beat myself up over it. And then the second time, I did like my score. I got a 163 the second time, and I was happy with that. And then I attended Pepperdine Law School. For me, law school was, and it's sad to say this, it was just an extension of college for me.
I agree.
My problem is that I went straight from high school to college. So I went right into a 4-year university, and then straight from college right into law school. And so when I started law school, I was 21 years old. And by the time I graduated, I was only 24 years old. And I did not have any real life, real world experience. And that was a big detriment to me. I think the average age when I went to Pepperdine for law school was like 27 years old as an incoming age. And so everybody around me was a lot older than me. They had real life experience. I still did really well in law school, but I didn't retain as much as I wanted, and I didn't understand how this all works because I never had a real job to understand how to apply the law. So I could take a test really well, I would do fine on the test. I knew how to study. I knew how to do all that. But as soon as the test was over, there was no application.
What now?
Yeah, there's no application of what I had just learned. I had nothing to tie it to. So when people ask me for advice on law school, I always say, try to have some real life world experiences. Try to work somewhere. Doesn't necessarily need to be in law, but take a couple of years to understand how the world works and get some real life experiences. Negative experiences, positive experiences is really not going to matter, because then when you go to law school and you understand a legal concept, you could tie it back to your experience. For me, I didn't have any experience to tie it back to, and I think that's one of my biggest regrets is not doing that. But luckily, law school was great for me. I had a fantastic experience. I partied hard. I studied hard. Like I said, it was like a continuation of college for me. But it was a great experience, and I knew I wanted to go to law school. A lot of people go to law school because they don't know what they want to do. And they say, oh, I don't know what I want to do. I definitely don't want to be a doctor. So I guess I'll go to law school and then I'll figure it out from there. Which part of it is true. You can go to law school and use your law degree in real estate and finance and banking and all of that. I mean, you're going to pay a lot of money because the tuition is expensive, and you're going to really dedicate 3-4 years of your life to that. But you could use a law degree in many different aspects, especially when the economy is down and the job market is not good. I feel like people tend to say, okay, well, I don't know what I want to do with my life. No one's really hiring at what I want, so let me just go to law school and figure it out. But that wasn't my experience. I always knew I wanted to go to law school. I've been fighting with my parents and fighting people and arguing since I was a little kid, so I knew that that's something that I wanted to do.
I think to add on to that, I think going to law school, I always said this, it feels like a fundamental education that everyone in America should know.
Yeah.
I always say high school should have been law school, even though it's much harder.
Right.
It's a lot more work, but that's the things you learn in law school, the things I'm learning in law school. It's so applicable to everyday real life, and it's better for yourself to know it, to be able to take yourself further.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Did you know you wanted to go to law school forever? How did that come about?
Actually, up until graduating high school, I wanted to be a dentist. And then once I graduated, I'm like, nope.
Do you regret that now?
No, I love law. I'm very passionate about law. And to add on to everything you were saying, I do think working in the field definitely has a greater impact on you going to law school, because the work experience and work field and work life is extremely different than school.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people in my position who are now an employer and looking at hiring, we don't really, and maybe this is just us, but I know that a lot of people are in similar situations. We don't say, hey, what's your GPA? Where did you go? Are you cum laude? We want someone that has common sense and real life experience and can put together a nice sentence and can understand how life works, and we can use that common sense with their law degree to shape them. Now, I think since everyone is going to college and the law schools are much easier to get into, in my opinion, and the law schools want to accept more people, having that education is fine. It's great. It's a prerequisite. But having real life world experiences
100%.
is what we're looking for. And I think a lot of employers are looking for
100%. I think it makes a difference. And I think it's very important to try and work in the field you want to go into earlier than you going into the field, to kind of be able to go through the trial and error before it's your life.
Right.
Absolutely.
And law school has changed in the last 15 years. When we took the LSAT, we had logic games, and those logic games saved my ass because my reading comprehension wasn't fantastic. The logic reasoning was okay, was decent, but I would get a perfect score on the logic games, and the logic games really saved me in getting a good score. But now I heard that
logic games was actually where people tended to do the best to make up for the other parts that they did worse on. But now the new California bar actually got rid of logic games.
The LSAT, right?
The LSAT,
yeah. Which is, great for me because I don't have to deal with it. But that's a big deal, no?
It's a big deal. I think it's a big deal because when I took the LSAT twice. First time I took it, I wasn't really happy with my score, and I said, let me study again. Took it way more seriously and did a lot better.
Right.
And I realized doing the logic games, it's more than just, why does this apply to law school? Why do I have to do this? It shows your ability to maze through problems.
Right.
And problem solve very complex, multi-level things.
Absolutely. And I think that that's a really good introduction to law. logic and law, I think, are very similarly related. I remember in college, I took a logic class and I loved it. And it was like a really great course.
Yeah.
And I think that they're related. So to get rid of it, I don't know. Let's see what's coming about. So that's a big change in the last 15 years. Another big change is now the bar is only 2 days when it used to be 3 days. So when I took the bar, it was 3 days of 6 or 8 hour testing.
I believe it's 8.
3 days of 8 hour testing. So that was a lot of testing back then with 2 days of multiple choice and essays. 1 day of multiple choice, 2 days of essays. And so now it's only 2 days, right?
It's only 2 days.
Yeah. So I don't know if that makes it easier or harder. Yes, there's less days, but now if you make a mistake, I feel like the mistake
It's
is going to
worth
be
more.
is
Right.
worth more. Yeah, the
Right.
mistake is going to be worth more. But I think I would have preferred it to be 3 days, just in case you kind of mess up on an essay. Then you can make up for it on the other sections. But with a 2 day bar, you got to make sure everything is done right.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And outside of California, I don't know if you've heard, but states like Washington and Oregon got rid of the bar. They don't even require
What?
the bar anymore.
No way.
So
So you just go to law school and you graduate? And
so the way they created it was you could either take the bar, you still have the option to do so, or you can go once you graduate law school, work in an office and meet a very standard set of requirements that the state bar requires you to have and turn into them. Let's say they say like you have to show us 300 hours of work. You have to send us all the demands you did or the list of cases
Sample
that you
work,
worked,
yeah.
sample work. And after you met the initial requirements, we will certify you as a lawyer.
Wow. That's probably good for people who are studying for the bar as like a backup, just in case you don't pass. What do you know? How is it like a 2 year requirement? Do you know how many years it is?
I think it's less time. It's more work.
Okay.
I was reading it and it said you have to show full reports of cases that you worked on. There is a very minimum amount of required hours that you have to do. And also there is an updated log that you have to show them where they question you on things that you may not know and you have to have done it.
That sounds worse than the bar.
Yeah, I would rather just take the
bar. Wow. So it's like an apprenticeship, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And I think that's useful. That's important. You know, in medical school, you get to kind of choose which path you want to go, and they teach you about that path. Law school, everybody leaves law school with the same degree, and you kind of have to fend for yourself to kind of figure out what you want to be. So when I graduated law school, it was 2009. I don't know if our viewers or you remember, that was the huge housing crisis with, and the economy was just complete shit. And so finding a job, I remember you would apply and they would say, okay, we want somebody with 1 to 3 years of experience out of law school. And the pay was $20 an hour.
That's unbelievable.
$25 an hour. It was really, really bad. And so luckily I was able to get a job at Warner Brothers in the intellectual property department. And so I got a job. It wasn't a really well-paying job, but coming out of law school, I didn't have that real life experience. I tried to get whatever job I could get. And so I worked at the Warner Brothers for about a year, but it was just too slow for me. There was me in a dungeon reviewing contracts from the 70s to see if they had digital rights in those contracts. So it was very boring. And then luckily I got into something that has a fight to it, and we're advocating on behalf of clients. And so that's what we really want to do. What is it now, Yaron? How is the climate for an attorney now? Is it easier to find a job? Is it still difficult? Is it as these PI firms are just hiring everybody? How's that looking?
If we're going specifically into PI, it's a whole different conversation. I think it's definitely easier
to find a job now.
But I do think because it is easier, the people that do get a job are held to a higher standard by their bosses.
Okay. Good. And they should be, I feel like.
Of course they should be. Of course they should be. You know, being held to a higher standard, like I hope I'm held to. I think it teaches you to do right. And I think the field of law is it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of tedious work.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure that you don't get the tedious things wrong, because those little things are what matter the most.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, right now, I think if people do want to go to law school, I always recommend it. And I joke around sometimes and I'll say no. But if you are passionate about the law and you want to advocate and you want to help people, law school is a great avenue to do that. If you want to make a ton of money, law school can be an avenue for that. But there are shifts in the law like everywhere else. So something that made money in law 20 years ago may
Right.
not be making money now. And
Right.
something that's making money now in the legal field may not be making money in 5
Right.
to 10 years. So don't chase the money. If you're chasing money, the money will come to you, whether it's law or other things. If you really want to advocate on behalf of people and help people out and my favorite term for a lawyer is a counselor. When you think of an attorney, you really should be thinking of somebody who's providing you with counsel. They're giving you advice. And that advice is what they're using to make a decision. I love giving advice. I think I'm good at giving advice. A lot of my family and friends come to me, even outside of the law, to ask for my opinion and give advice. So for me, I fit the role of a counselor, and I've always wanted to fit that role. And I think that's part of the reason I wanted to go to law school. So to our viewers out there, to anybody listening, if you want to advocate, if you want to give good advice, if you want to be a counselor, I think those are great reasons to go to law school. If you want to just make a quick money, I think you can do that without being $200,000-$300,000 in debt to do that. But there are a lot of law schools out there, and there's a lot of applicants, and I haven't heard of somebody that wanted to go to law school that couldn't. So I think with all that, if you want to go to law school, you can find the right place and the right home for that.
Yeah, I think law school is, I'm very happy in law school. It's an amazing, if you're passionate about law, you'll love what you learn, and you'll also be able to have a very good work-life balance.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's true. My brother is a doctor. Yaron's brother is in medical school. So compared to the medical life,
We're the two lawyers that our brothers are the doctors.
I mean, look, I would have loved to be a doctor. I can't do the gory stuff, so that it doesn't work for me. But I think for work-life balance, an attorney is going to have a much better work-life balance
100%.
than a doctor. That's been our experiences through law school. Everyone's going to have their own experiences, but that's what life is. Life is not something that you have to get to an end result. The journey is life, and you build on your experiences, positive, negative experiences that you have to get to where you want to be. If any of our viewers want any more information, you can always reach out to us. But this has been a fun and nice topic to discuss on
Amazing.
Duck the
Yeah.
IRS.
Yeah.
Yaron, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Hopefully we'll keep going with more podcasts and more things like that. If you guys like these kind of topics that are not so specific to tax and law, feel free to leave some comments, and we'll start doing it again. Thank you
you.
so much, Yaron.